Hello, and you're listening to Your Majesty's Secret Podcast. I like my podcast shaken, not stirred. Only on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. If you'd like to check out more shows, go to foureyedradio.com.
This Four-Eyed Radio production is brought to you by America Joy Print Shop. All your printing needs taken care of in one convenient place. Visit americajoy.com for business cards, flyers, banners, decals, car wraps, and more. Visit americajoy.com.
Bond. James Bond. Shaken, not stirred.
Utter one more syllable and I'll have you killed.
I thought Christmas only comes once a year.
For your eyes only, darling.
I never joke about my web 007.
For England, James?
Come in, Univex. James Bond here.
Am I going to have a problem with you, Bond?
Allow me to introduce myself.
You're that secret agent! That English secret agent from England!
No, you're cleverer than you look.
Still better than looking cleverer than you are.
My God, what's Bond doing?
I think he's attempting re-entry, sir.
007 reporting for duty.
Hello, the name's Berkeley, Ziggy Berkeley from Cinema on the Rocks, and with me is Eric Dewey from Socially Awkward, Science and Beer, and many other fine shows on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. And you are listening to Her Majesty's Secret Podcast, where we discuss all things James Bond 007. That's right, we're into bondage. Major bondage.
Commander bondage. Oh, wait, no, that's not where you were going with Major. My bad.
And today we're going to pull an audible. Remember how at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, when the credits rolled, they said James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only, and the next movie he actually got was Moonraker, and he got For Your Eyes Only after that?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're doing here, because if you recall, at the end of our last episode, we said we would be talking about several James Bond novels, including the most recent one by William Boyd, but in fact, you're going to hear about that in our next episode, because in this one, we've called an audible and decided to talk about the music instead. Yes. So hopefully, you're one of the many people who caught that. We appreciate you listening.
Yes, we decided that this one, we're going into the holiday season, so we've got to push some recording times together, and to give us a little bit more time to delve more deeply into the book series, we're going to go ahead and talk about the music tonight.
Loosely translated, Eric had only had 2 of the books read.
Yes. So tonight we're going to give you our list. Now this is completely, totally subjective, obviously. We're going to give our own justifications for how we came to this list, but this is by no means intended to be us telling you what you should think in these respects. But we are going to rank all of the official Eon Films songs, the themes. We're talking specifically about the theme songs for the movies. And Ziggy, why don't you elaborate a little bit more on the rules we put into this list and how we came about the specific list that we have now?
Okay, what we're going to do when we get to that portion of the show is we are going to rank from bottom to top our favorite of the James Bond theme songs from the Eon films, with some exceptions. Because one, we decided that the original James Bond theme song from Dr. No, which is Monty Norman's James Bond theme song, da-da-da, etc. I am not going to do the rest of it because that would sound horrible. That's just awesome emeritus. And that's just going to trump everything no matter what. So that's just kind of like the honorary, best of all time award. It just wins. Yes. So there you go. It gets its golden place on the shelf. And plus, we also decided that we wanted to keep specifically to the lyrical themes. So that knocks out the theme from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is also instrumental. So what we have at that point is we had a list of 23 films, which was now dropped down to 21. Decided to throw in a ringer and put in Never Say Never Again as something for consideration. And also, because there are enough extra songs from the Bond movies, we decided to open up 3 wildcard spots for any one of the songs that was featured on any of the other James Bond soundtracks. Now, this means that Eric and I had the same pool to pick from, but we may not have picked the same songs to even appear on the list. Yep. So we absolutely had to cover the lyrical Eon themes. We absolutely had to include Never Say Never Again. But the other 3 songs, completely up for grabs. And as far as how we decided what songs to put on here, Let's face it, there is no such thing as a completely objective way to do this. Can't be done, not possible, so not even going to pretend. That said, what we decided, along with our own favorite bias, we did want to throw in how Bondish does a song feel?
Yes.
Just the overall atmosphere of, does this belong in a James Bond movie at all? Does this work in the universe?
I call it the scale of Bondinosity.
I like that word. Like, for example, Trace Atkins, Honky Tonk Badonkadonk, not going to happen, just doesn't work. Sorry. So, just to give you an example.
I wish that song didn't happen at all, ever, actually, quite frankly. I can't stand that song. But a good example of a song that has zero Bondinosity.
Yes. And then we also included in our own thoughts, how much did the song reflect the specific movie that it was involved in?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to tell you straight off, even though I have no idea what Eric's list is, because that's half the fun, it's revealing our list to each other as we go, is that, at least on my part, and Eric has agreed that this is true of him as well, we're going to sound like hypocrites somewhere along this list. A justification we use for one song for why it sucks is probably going to be the same justification for a song for why we thought it was great later on, and vice versa. It's going to happen because, hey, you try doing that and not being that way. It's human nature.
Trying to make a list of 25 songs and ranking them, even if it didn't have anything to do with a specific movie or anything like that, just trying to make that list would be hard enough. But then factoring in that they are all Bond themes or from the Bond films, and trying to add in the aspect of not just which ones we like the most, but which ones best reflect not only Bond, but also the specific Bond movie that they were featured in. It adds a layer of difficulty to the selection process. I tried to go about it as scientifically as possible. I'm not trying to make that sound like I did it objectively. As you said, that's impossible. I just tried to add a little bit of science and tried to self-control myself into making it as objective as I possibly could within my own subjective system of measurements. If that makes
what he's trying to say is he used a numeric scale.
I did, as a matter of fact. Heavily weighted towards my personal like or dislike of the song, but with a good amount of weight to the Bondinosity and a smaller weight to the if it fits in that specific movie. So.
Whereas for my part, I just winged it. But, you know, I think that the results will be very, very interesting. And, of course, after you've listened to our show, we'd be happy to hear what you think about our lists.
Absolutely.
As always, you can find us on the web at hermajestiespod.com.
Yeah.
You can find us on Twitter at hermajestiespod. Mm-hmm. You can find me at cinemaotr. You can find me on the web at cinemaontherocks.com. And you can email me at ziggy@cinemaontherocks.com.
And you can find me on Twitter at Eric J. Dewey. I'm also available on Facebook. If you search for Socially Awkward Eric, you can send me a friend request there. I accept all comers on that particular Facebook page. And, of course, check out my other shows on the Four-Eyed Radio Network. You can find them all at foureyedradio.com.
Yes. But now let's get into our discussion of the music. And before we get into the much anticipated list, I'll admit I've been looking forward to this particular list more than almost any other that we're going to do in this entire show. I've been thinking about this list from the time we started, almost a year ago now. So,
wow. Well, all right.
This is going to be fun. But as I think we discussed in our original rundowns of the movies, aside from Monty Norman's James Bond theme, the first couple scores were kind of weak. They kind of felt, I mean, they weren't bad, but they were more incidental music, and they were always punctuated by whenever Bond was doing spy stuff, you had Monty Norman's Bond theme come on.
Yeah, you knew exactly when he was going to use a gadget, he was going to shoot something, he was going to run or ski or get in a car and drive fast, or he was going, you knew that was about to happen or had just started happening when you heard that bum 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 bum. Oh, you're like, oh, it's spy stuff, all right. But other than that, the score was, as you said, just kind of it was there. It wasn't distracting to the point where you're like, oh, what is this music? But it didn't accent the movies that much either. So
no, it wasn't bad at all. It was actually pretty par for the course for the era, but the music really hadn't come into its own except for that theme song, which actually for the first couple of movies was kind of overused. Like he's checking for bugs in his hotel and the music is playing.
But that's
really
spy-ish.
Yeah.
Non-spies don't check for bugs in their hotel room. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, they check for bugs, but you don't need, major adventure music going at the time. Though I suppose that can make things fun. I mean, let's face it, there's the scene from Risky Business, who doesn't rock out while house cleaning sometimes, So, okay, maybe that's his equivalent.
You got to make it fun.
You do. And even John Barry himself, the signature composer for the 007 series, said he didn't really feel like he had control until later on. And the feel of a James Bond movie really starts out when you have Goldfinger and Thunderball. That's when it really kicks into starting to, okay, we now have an identity as a series, and we're going to transfer that identity to our music, because we don't want to be this core of films where all the music is just incidental. We want this to be something where you can be walking through into the theater, not knowing what's playing, hear the music with your eyes closed, and suddenly guess, yes, it's James Bond. And that's when that's when it really kicks in, is that third and fourth film.
Yeah, I completely agree. It definitely started to flourish at that point when it came to the score.
Yeah. And of course, John Barry was, and always will be the signature composer for the series beyond Monty Norman's theme. He really set the tone that everyone else has followed since. And while I think he's had at least one reasonably worthy successor, no one has ever equaled him. And he would go on to do more movies than anyone else in the series. And he would be off and on from start until The Living Daylights, which I really, really enjoyed his score for. It's actually one that I still listen to in the car just for fun. I think his most powerful one was probably On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and he even had the theme song for that. So everything just gelled there. And I also very much enjoy his score for Moonraker as another just very signature Barry. How about yourself?
As far as John Barry definitely is my favorite. I thought the David Arnold scores were very, very good. When we were doing the show notes for this episode before, you had put in the notes, David Arnold was good. And I added in parentheses very, just for my own benefit, because that's really how I felt about it. And he's just one step underneath John Barry as far as the quality of the music goes, as far as I'm concerned. But I would definitely, John Barry's definitely going to be the top dog in this particular area. When we're talking about scores, he's got it locked up.
Absolutely. And when I was mentioning that there's at least one worthy successor, David Arnold is exactly who I was talking about. He just picked up right where Barry left off and gave it just enough of modernity so that it would be playing for the current audience, but still keeping to the tradition. He really married those elements well and came up with just some damn exciting stuff. I still think one of my favorite pieces of all is the combination of tracks 2 and 3 from The World Is Not Enough. It's my favorite freeway music ever. I mean, just watch out for cops, because you'll want to get a lead foot while you're listening to it. It's just a really great amalgamation of that movie's theme music combined with Monty Norman's James Bond theme in just a really high energy chase type feel medley. And it's I think the best of the medley pieces inside any of the scores.
Definitely, that is a very good a good score for a movie that wasn't so great. So we definitely appreciate when something good can be taken away from a movie that otherwise had major issues, so to speak. So I agree completely.
And then, of course, we have some of the one-off things. Actually, a one-off, sorry. Eric Serra's score for GoldenEye. It was an interesting experiment. I like it as its own album. I do not like it as a James Bond score. I think it totally misses the mark. I think that, as I mentioned while we were talking about that particular movie, it's as though a James Bond score went to a Nine Inch Nails concert, got drunk, and then couldn't remember who it was in the morning.
Sounds fair. Yeah, that's what I do when I go to concerts. But no, I can agree with that, because as I pointed out when we were talking about that episode, that was one of the few things I didn't really like that much about that movie. It wasn't horrible to me. it didn't, like I said, it didn't stand out and make me think, what is this? Why are they doing this? But at the same time, it didn't stand out in the way that some of the other scores stood out, where you could be like, wow, this music really helps. One thing I like to do sometimes when I have the time is to listen to movies without watching them. Sometimes I'll fire up Netflix on my phone, pop a movie, and I've seen several times, throw the phone in my pocket and just listen to the movie. You really get to experience the score that way, and that's when you can really, I think, tell if the score is helping or hindering the flow of the movie. But yeah, that's not one that I would probably do that with, because it wouldn't be that enjoyable.
No, but as an album on its own, without considering it as Bond, I actually do listen to it in the car every so often, but as the movie, it just seemed wrong. Now, an experiment that worked perfectly for the specific movie it was there for was Marvin Hamlish for The Spy Who Loved Me, a.k.a. Disco Bond. That was just cool. It just worked. The movie was just off the wall, and the music went right along with it. I love the extra cue from Lawrence of Arabia that was originally thrown in just as a gag they weren't going to keep, but then everyone loved it. It's just a fun score, and I think it really underlines the tone of the film. I think it's just perfect for that movie specifically.
Yeah, definitely. I don't disagree at all with that. Don't really have anything to add either, but I don't disagree.
And then, of course, when we got to Moonraker, you had John Barry's one of his best scores, but then you have the little extra musical cues from the Magnificent Seven, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It was just a very, very nice touch. And then following that, you had another one of the set this in a particular time scores from Bill Conti for Your Eyes Only. That stuff that most people want to call disco, but I refuse to for some reason, and I don't know why. It's like transitioning from disco to 80s pop. Come on, who's with me?
That's just a fun time of music, I think. Quite frankly, I enjoy that time frame of music. I don't know how much Bondinessosity it has, but I do enjoy the time of music typically. I
thought the Olympic Village chase music was some of the better chase music from the modern era.
Oh, definitely. That was definitely a good track, and I thought a fairly solid score all around.
Yeah, it's another one. In fact, it's the first James Bond score that I actually really fell in love with as a score, just because I just really enjoyed it. It was just fun to listen to. Whereas on the opposite end, there's the one-off of Michael Kamen doing License to Kill, which to me was just a complete sellout album. It just sounded like incidental music once again, occasionally remembering to throw in the James Bond theme, but other than that, it sounded like recycled material. I just did not like that one at all.
Yeah, it wasn't a solid score, for sure. It wasn't, again, I didn't find it distractive. I didn't find it so bad that I was like, oh, what's going on here? But at the same time, it definitely did not add to my enjoyment of the film. So, and even though I did like that movie, so yeah, I concur. Not one of their best choices.
Yeah, I don't think it filled high on your Bondinessosity scale.
It didn't.
To borrow your word. There, now I got to say it. Bondinessosity.
Yes. It's an official term. Look for it in next year's Oxford Dictionary.
Yeah. And then we also have the one-off score for Live and Let Die, which was done by one of Paul McCartney's frequent collaborators from when he was working with the Beatles. And that worked very well, the rock score, to accentuate McCartney's theme. Again, especially effective during the chases, and worked well for the culture that the movie was trying to work with.
Yes, I really enjoyed the score to that one, and it was quite a bit different. I mean, if I judged that one just by itself, it would be tough to lump it in with the other ones because it was quite a bit different, but it was very good, and I thought it fit the film very well. So I was definitely very happy with the score choice on that one.
And then finally we have Skyfall, Thomas Newman, something that was a surprise to a lot of people because David Arnold had done nothing wrong. And he really wanted to continue, but Sam Mendes said, I want to work with the guy I've always worked with on most of my films. And that's why we had the change. And since I really liked David Arnold's work, I felt opposed to it beforehand. When the movie came out, I can't hate on it because I like the score, but I still feel kind of sad that David Arnold didn't get to continue.
It would be interesting to see what he would have done because he is such a good composer and a good, specifically a good Bond composer. He's very good at choosing music for Bond. But Skyfall was so well done, including the score, that it's hard to say, oh, I wish this person had done it because what if it wasn't as good? You know? So I can't complain about the score that we ended up with.
Yeah, I can't complain about what we ended up with. It's one of those what if questions, and it's one of the what if questions that actually is a thing that makes you go,
Thing that makes you go, moo? No, not quite.
No, not quite there, but any other thoughts on the orchestral side of things?
Not particularly, no. I didn't really focus on that this last week when we were doing this. I really listened to these theme songs repeatedly. A few of them even more repeatedly than I normally do because I was like, oh, I forgot how much I like this song. And so I just had to, I'm driving around just playing that one song on repeat and things like that. So I didn't get a chance to really do much more diving into the scores. And it might be something to dive into for, another episode down the line, or even just a half an episode or part of an episode at some point in the future to delve a little bit more deeper. Anyways, I'm making up words, but not that one, folks, not that one. Dive a little bit deeper into the score side of things sometime in the future. But for now, is it time to get to the themes?
But I do want to give one more shout out before we start on the lists to the score from the unofficial Casino Royale, and particularly the theme done by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. Which is one of the most fun pieces of music I have ever heard.
Definitely is a fun song. It kind of makes up for the rest of the movie. Well, I wouldn't say it makes up for it, but at least it's something to look forward to. If you're going to watch that movie, at least you're going to get to hear that. So that's fun.
For me, the song by itself, just that particular theme, is one of the most instant happy fun time pieces of music ever. I mean, if you're depressed and you put this on, you should at least get a little bit of a smile out of it. I mean, you just can't be sad listening to this song. And then as far as the overall mariachi feel for the whole movie, I think it was appropriate for what they were doing. And I think it did enhance the silliness. But also at the same time, you have the debut of one of the modern jazz standards, The Look of Love, which everybody forgets came from that movie. But yes, somebody did that before Diana Krall. So it's interesting to think that such a gorgeous jazz song came from such a silly-ass movie that otherwise had loaded with mariachi music.
But it was fun, It was not a good Bond movie for sure, but it was a fun movie, and so you can't fault it for that, since that's really what they were going for, was fun more than espionage and thriller and action and things like that. So, hey, it works.
It does indeed. But now the thing that I think we're both itching to get to, and I'm going to make you wait just a little bit longer for it, is the list of theme songs. Now, before Eric and I get into our own lists, I asked the Four Eyed Radio Network's resident music guy, Matt Renfro, host of the Fro Show, to give his own opinion of his least favorite and his favorite of the James Bond themes. And he was happy to answer about that. He started out with his least favorite.
All right.
He said, my least favorite is Die Another Day by Madonna. And his reasoning behind that is, it's like they were trying to bring a Bond theme current with a pop track. I don't think it embodies Bond, even with the track being named the same as the movie.
I am not going to fault his decision-making process in any way, shape, or form, and you'll find out very soon why. But, yeah, I concur. I concur wholeheartedly. Matthew, good choice. Good choice for least favorite.
And then, as far as Matt Renfro's favorite James Bond theme, he says, I'd have to go with Another Way to Die by Jack White and Alicia Keys from Quantum of Solace.
Wow. That's a little bit surprising. Not because it's a bad song by any means, but it did rank kind of low on my personal Bondinosity scale. But other than that, that one, you will see where it falls on my list. It's not, way at the bottom or anything like that, but it's certainly not, at the top. So a little interesting.
I found that choice very interesting. I was certainly completely shocked by it, to be honest. But his justification, as he wrote, I think it's rad that two powerhouses from different genres of music came together to collaborate on a track for a franchise as notable as Bond. It seems to me, and I may be wrong, he says, but this track didn't get much love, and I'm not sure why. It's a great track. So that is how the Four Eyed Radio Network's resident music guy, Matt Renfro of the Fro Show, decided to weigh in on the question of least and most favorite James Bond themes.
Thank you very much, Matthew, for answering that question for us. And, of course, anybody who wants to check out more of Matthew's work, he's with me on the Socially Awkward Studio Show. But he also has his very own show, The Fro Show, which you can find at foureyedradio.com, where he showcases brand new independent music tracks every single week on Fridays. And he has fantastic taste in music. I love listening to his show because it really introduces me to music that I probably wouldn't have ever heard otherwise. Some really great independent tracks. He introduced me to a group that I love almost everything that they've put out so far, but I never would have heard of them if he hadn't put them on his show. So he's got great taste in music, and you should check out his show because it's awesome.
And thank you very much, Matt, for participating with no notice. I also popped this one as a surprise on Eric. He didn't know these answers beforehand.
I know. I was like getting my pencil ready. I'm like, I'm going to write this down so I can, complain about it later. But you only gave me one small point of complaint, so we'll get to it when we get to it. But other than that, I pretty much agree.
So let's get into our list now. I'm going to give the honor to Eric to start off with his least favorite theme. And again, remember, our scale was that we had to use all of the lyrical Eon James Bond themes. We had to count Never Say Never Again. And then we got to pick 3 other pieces of music from James Bond soundtracks, with lyrics, of course, that we had to throw into the list. Now, I would assume that Eric went with what I did and threw them in as something positive to say, because, of course, if we hated them, we could just leave them off the list. So,
yeah, the ones that I chose were basically I took the list. I did the same thing. I took all of the other additional songs that I could find and listen to, and I rated them basically the exact same way that I rated the other ones, just in a separate scale. And then I took the top 3 of those and merged them into my list of the 22. So it ended up being, so they're in there, separate from. They're not separate from the other main themes, but I did score them separately on their own before doing that, just to make sure that I ended up with the 22 main themes in there. So my least favorite, and this is why I was saying I agree with Matthew Renfro very much on this particular choice, my least favorite of all of them is the Madonna Die Another Day theme. I despise that song. It's awful. I hate it. I will put it, if I'm watching that movie, which I don't do very often anyway, because let's face it, that wasn't a good film. If I do watch it, though, I will actually mute the TV while the opening sequence is going because I don't want to hear it. It's that bad for me. I mean, the only reason I gave it, like I said, I weighted a scale of how much I like a song from 1 to 10. I had to stop myself from giving this song a 0 because I said, no, I'm not going to give any zeros. I'm going to, from 1 to 10, no zeros. So I gave it a 1 only because I forced myself to. But I also did not feel it was, I felt I had it at the bottom of the scale for its Bondinessosity as well. The only thing it got a higher score on was that it did fit that movie. And in that I knew that the song was awful and the movie was awful, so it did fit. But so that is my bottom of the heap, and way, way on the bottom, to put it mildly as well, is Die Another Day by Madonna.
Okay. Now, with mine, I'm going to preface it by saying that only the bottom 2 things on the list are songs that I would say that I actively hate them. And then you go up to a little bit of I rather dislike them, and then you have a lot of they're okay, and then you have like the top 9 that are great. No. So that's this is definitely not a proportional scale. No, we start way at the bottom, we stay there for a couple rungs, we go up quite a bit, then we go up a lot. So
Mine is somewhat similar. I only have a couple that are down there on the scale, and then when it gets up to the higher end of the scale, it's a real close race near the top of the pile. So
Now, as for my bottom of the barrel, and this is why I said I was completely shocked by Mr. Renfro, my least favorite is Another Way to Die by Alicia Keys and Jack White from Quantum of Solace. There is a difference between sultry and sleazy, and I do not understand why this sleazy stripper pole music is in a James Bond movie. It does not belong here. It would score 0 to me on a Bondinosity scale, has absolutely no place in the James Bond universe. I don't think that it has any bearing on the film itself. I don't think that the style matches any of the locations, any of the culture they're going for, and it certainly doesn't match the general theme. And it's just a bad song. It's any of the Bond-type elements that are in there feel incredibly forced, and I can't possibly enjoy this in any way, shape, or form. And like I said, when I hear it, I actively think of really greasy, nasty strip clubs that I wouldn't even want to think about entering. Not that I ever really dig the strip club thing anyway. It's just not my thing. But it's just, this is awful. And I have no idea how this ended up in a Bond movie, except that someone decided to go with marketing and said, hey, Alicia Keys is hot, and went with that.
At least they didn't put her in the movie. With Madonna, they're like, hey, sing our theme song, and hey, while you're at it, why don't you play a character in the movie as well? So just to make sure that anybody who doesn't like you is really pissed off about this movie.
But that is my choice for the bottom of the barrel, Another Way to Die from Quantum of Solace.
Completely opposite of the Fro Show's pick. That's, wow. All right. Well, we're starting things off right with a major shocker right from the get-go. Are we moving up now to spot number 24 on our lists?
Yep. For number 24... this is where we go back into harmony. My number 24 pick is Die Another Day by Madonna. And it took something as what to me is as nasty as Another Way to Die to make something that I hated worse than this song. I don't even want to call it a song, because all I think it really is a useless club mix that has nothing to do with anything else. And just, as you said, the only way that it fits anywhere into the Bond universe is it's just as bad and confused of an amalgamation as this movie is. And the part that really, for some reason, pisses me off the most when I listen to this song, and yes, it does actively piss me off to listen to this song, is when she does that stupid drop, boom, Sigmund Freud. What the hell? What's that doing in here?
That whole song, like, I forced myself to listen to it a couple of times when I was making this list just to make sure, because I pretty much knew that was going to be the bottom of my pile to begin with. I mean, I pretty much knew, like, there was a couple of things, like, I'm pretty sure I know which ones my top 3 are going to be. I don't necessarily know which order they're going to be in yet, but I pretty much have those set. And I pretty much knew that Madonna's Die Another Day was going to be at the bottom of the heap, but I forced myself to listen to it a couple of times to make sure, just to give it a fair chance with the rest of the music. And nope, if anything, it went lower on the list. It went further into the barrel. You know, it's actually underneath the barrel at this point. It's not even at the bottom. It's underneath it. It's buried 6 feet. I wish it was buried 6 feet under, but it's underneath the damn barrel at this point. So I can't fault you. I'm the only thing I can fault you for is that it should have been one place lower. But other than that, no, good choice for numero 24. My number 24 is, I don't know if this is going to surprise you or not, because the movie was great. I'm not saying anything bad about the movie itself, but I did not enjoy the theme by Matt Monro from Russia with Love. It is my number 24 pick. Now, to be fair, it is quite a big step up from Madonna's Die Another Day. It's not lumped in there at the same place with it, but it's not one that I'll listen to. It's not one that I felt really... It scored kind of medium on my Bondinosity scale, and kind of medium on whether it fits with the movie itself, but I really just don't enjoy the song. So it did end up scoring very lowly, and that's my number 24.
Fair enough. My number 24 is All Time High by Rita Coolidge from Octopussy.
That's your 23.
Which to me is everything that sucks about adult contemporary radio.
That's 23, right? Does 24? Yeah. Okay, just make.
I'm
sure.
sorry.
Just make
yeah,
sure.
It's my 23. I apologize. 24 was Die Another Day. So yeah, it's dull. It's elevator music. It has absolutely nothing to do with the movie. I mean, you can't even pretend it has anything to do with the movie. You can't pretend it has anything to do with James Bond. It's just somebody took an adult contemporary tune and just slapped it into a Bond movie, figured, what the hell, will make it work? Why not? If we call it a Bond theme, they will come. And the only reason that it's not at the bottom is because somebody later on found 2 songs that actively sucked. Whereas this one is just boring. It's just so damn boring.
It is not... I don't hate it nearly as much as you do, but I do agree somewhat. It is a slow, kind of boring. It doesn't really have any of that pizzazz that I expect from a Bond movie. But I'll get a little bit more into that here in a little bit when I get to that one. But I don't disagree with you putting it near the bottom, the bottom half of your list there. For me, number 23, however, is the one that I probably, which is surprising. Like you said, the only reason this isn't on the bottom of the list is because they managed to find a couple of songs that I liked even less. But this would be Lanny Hall's "Never Say Never Again." I probably wouldn't have even put this on the list if it weren't for the fact that you said, no, we're going to count it. So I was like, all right.
I specifically said to count it for a reason. And I notice you're coming from the same era of adult contemporary radio that I went with.
Yeah, well, yeah, some of those, they all kind of blend together. Some of them just like, I had to, at one point, the song started and it hadn't gotten to the lyrics yet, and I had to check my player to see which song it was that I was listening to, because I was like, wait a minute, is this one or this one? Because they sounded very similar. There were a couple that just were like, wait a minute, this is practically the same damn song. But Never Say Never Again, first of all, the movie shouldn't count, but whatever. It exists, and so we have to count it. Lanny Hall, is that the same Lanny Hall that plays the piano on the Whose Line Is It Anyway?
No, that's Laura Hall.
Laura Hall, okay.
Lanny Hall, however, is, or at least was at the time, I don't remember if that continued, Mrs. Herb Alpert.
I did see when I was looking for this song, because this is the one song that I don't actually have on my player already. I had to look for it on YouTube, and I happened to see that when I searched Lanny Hall, I was like, okay, there's, oh, look at that, Herb Alpert. She's singing songs with him. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that they were married, but that's interesting. But no, I'm glad that so it's Laura Hall. Okay, good, because I like Laura Hall on that show. I don't like really much about this song whatsoever. It's not awful in the sense that I'll be like, oh, and like, poke my ears out with something like when Lady Gaga comes on the radio. But it is not a great song. It is not a good song even. It is mediocrity at its finest. And I don't feel that it was very Bondish. I had it really low on that scale. Now I did score it, medium on the fits the movie scale, because I thought the movie was fairly dull and boring as well. Being a remake of something else anyway, and then just kind of it seemed like a cheap copy, and this song seems like a cheap copy of a Bond theme to me as well. So that's why it scored so low on my list.
So it just didn't make you go rah 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 mama.
Oh, good God. No. There are some, like, what really upsets me, and I'm just going to take a little detour here to bitch about Lady Gaga. She, unlike a lot of pop stars today who have zero vocal talent whatsoever and get by completely on looks, media, and auto-tune, Lady Gaga actually can sing. But she chooses to sing shitty songs. Excuse my language, but they're just not good.
Interesting. I'd be interested to hear what Matt Renfro has to say about that.
There's some people
I actually don't hate on her. I mean, she's not my favorite by any means. I mean, I don't actively go looking for her on the radio, but I don't hate on her either. I recognize her primarily as a show person, much on the same order is, well, Madonna from her heyday in the 80s, or somebody like Liberace.
I could never stand Madonna either. Never really listened to Liberace, but could never stand Madonna either.
And then I think the other person who definitely fits, other two people I think of in terms of popular music stars who really fit the show person mentality are Elton John and Ozzy Osbourne.
And see, they're two pretty much opposite ends of the spectrum, but yes, you're right. They're all about the showmanship, but I like Elton John's music. Not like, oh, I'm going to listen to Elton John all the time, but I like his stuff, and I recognize he does have a fantastic talent, but yeah, he is all about the showmanship as well. I mean, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. And I think he would actually agree with the title of the next song in terms of what the title says. I don't know whether or not he'd agree with where I placed it, but my number 22 on the list is Diamonds Are Forever from Shirley Bassey. It's no detriment on Dame Shirley Bassey, who has a fantastic singing voice, but again, oh my God, this song is so damn boring. It's just, whenever I listen to my compilation of James Bond themes, you'll get maybe 1 time out of 10 that I don't automatically skip this track. It's just the dull factor that does it for me. And it doesn't feel particularly Bondish, and it doesn't even really fit the tone of the movie. I mean, if you don't get that title, this has nothing to do with it whatsoever and doesn't belong there. But again, it wasn't as bad as the 3 that went below it, and therefore it lands at my number 22 spot.
Well, we'll talk about it a little bit more when I get to it on my list, which will take a little while. But I don't completely disagree with everything you've said, just with most of it. But first of all, we'll stick with my number 22 on the list, where, as with you said, the title, was the only thing that tied it in. For me, the name of the artist was the only thing that tied this one in, because it accurately described the song. And that is The World Is Not Enough theme by Garbage. This is the one that I ranked second lowest on my How Much I Like It scale. Now, I did feel that this one did have the elements necessary to make it kind of feel Bondish. I had to give it that little bit higher score in the Bondist necessity scale. And I did feel it, again, I didn't like it, and I didn't really like that movie very much, so it scored in the mid-range on whether or not it fits the movie. But this was my second lowest scoring on the how much I personally like the song. I really don't like this song very much at all. And so that's how it ended up on my 22 spot.
Interesting choice. I think we're going to have some discussions. How about for your number 21 spot? Which song of yours is at least old enough to drink?
Number 21. And now we're getting into songs that I do enjoy listening to. We're kind of in the mid-range of my How Much I Like Them scale. It happens really early in the list here, but my number 21 is Lulu's The Man with the Golden Gun. I felt that it definitely fit the movie. It got high marks on that because it basically told you all about the bad guy in the movie. It was basically a descriptive. It was the guy's resume. But as far as its Bondness, I felt it focused too much on the villain and didn't focus enough on Bond himself. So it ended up mid-range there. As far as how much I liked it, I tolerate it, and it doesn't make me angry, but it also doesn't make me happy. So it right there in the mid-range as well. So it kind of scored mid-range all the way across. Nothing special. In fact, it garnered exactly half of the possible points it could from the scoring system I created for this list. So, and that put it all the way. Yeah, that tells you something about the rest of the list. That at the halfway point is my 21 spot. So everything else, it gets better. It gets better from here. But that's my 21. How about you?
I can't say that I'm quite in the same place yet. In fact, one thing that surprised me as I was going through this list is how many of these songs I don't particularly like. And like, there's only 2 that actively suck. But then we still have the don't particularly like, but they're all right, I guess. And coming in at number 21 with almost the exact same descriptors that I gave for Diamonds Are Forever is You Only Live Twice from Nancy Sinatra. It's just boring. And if it weren't for the title, I don't think it would really fit the James Bond universe at all. I think the only reason that it even remotely fits the movie is that it does have the little, they're not really koto plucks, but they sound like koto plucks. So you have the location kind of thought of there, and I suppose it plays a little like a samurai poem in a very, 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 if you've had a little too much sake, you could think of it that way. So that's why it gets the number 21 spot from me.
You Only Live Twice by Nancy Sinatra. That one did not score very highly on my list. We'll get to it fairly shortly here, so I won't talk about it too much. But I pretty much agree with what you've said there. My only difference would be that I enjoyed it personally a little bit more. But so what about your number 20 spot, dipping down into the can't drink stage?
My number 20 spot, and we're still in the it's just so damn boring side, is finally From Russia with Love by Matt Monro, which I love the movie. It's a great movie.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just outstanding. However, this song, it just doesn't do anything for me. It's just it's dull. With that said, it at least has some kind of wistful bondiness to it. It's because as Ian Fleming and Cubby Broccoli both tried to hit with the James Bond series, they first came out in an era where people didn't travel. If it wasn't a road trip to the local amusement park, most people didn't do it. Or if you went to Yellowstone in your car, if you were an American, or if you went to something similar if you were British. Basically, you didn't go much further than a couple days driving distance, and you did it in your car. So there was something of the travel aspect to it. And at least with From Russia with Love, it's got sort of that wistful, faraway feel to it, like it belongs in a cruise line commercial or something. Right. So I'll give it that much. But beyond that, it just doesn't do much for me.
Okay. No, I can definitely see that. And it's being that was my number 24 spot of 25, I completely agree with everything you said, except for I gave it even lower scores on Bondness because I didn't think it even had that much. But I understand your argument for it. It didn't convince me, though. It's still sitting at number 20. For me, number 20 comes in. Another song that I really don't like. This one drops back down in my scale of how much I like the song or not. It dips back down into the subpar, the second half of the scale here, because I did not enjoy it, and I will skip it whenever possible. And part of it has to do with the artist. I just don't like her to begin with. But it's Tomorrow Never Dies by Sheryl Crow. I can't even say her damn name. That's how much I don't like her. No, I'm just kidding. Sheryl Crow in Tomorrow Never Dies. That comes in at number 20 for me. And again, it's one of those ones I do not like listening to it. I did give it a little boost in. I did feel it kind of had the necessary. It kind of hit the points it needed to get some points on my Bondness scale. But I didn't really feel. I felt it kind of hit the midpoint on matching with the movie, but nothing really spectacular, and I just don't really like listening to it. So it is still fairly low on the scale. That's my number 20.
Fair enough. I'll talk about where I put it later. I can't say that I disagree too much. Now, as far as my number 19, it's interesting because after months of consideration and days of really poring over this list, I finally put this at number 19. And I'm still saying it belongs there just in terms of the entire everything I'm weighing it in. But this falls further back down on the scale of not so much dull as I actively dislike it. Okay. And that would be License to Kill by Gladys Knight. From License to Kill, part of the Sellout soundtrack that was orchestrated by Michael Kamen. Gladys Knight herself didn't even want to do this song.
Okay.
Because she felt that as a Christian artist, she did not want to use anything that included the word kill, and especially where she's whispering it several times. Kill, kill, kill. Like, no, it's not James Bond, it's Jason. Jason, this is Jason, kill, kill, kill. But it kind of comes through. She doesn't really sound like she's enthused about it. There is no Shirley Bassey gusto here. And the song itself is just kind of inane. It's really late 80s version of adult contemporary suckage. However, what it's got going for it and the thing that kept it higher is the orchestration on it. Mm-hmm. That the opening sounds like Bond.
Yes.
And just the general orchestration behind the song
right.
sounds like Bond. And as much as I say it sounds like lousy late 80s adult contemporary radio, it also fits a late 80s movie because as a fan specifically of late 80s action films, I'm thinking, yeah, this would actually be in just about any action film I could name somewhere in the credits, and it would be fine just from all the stuff you listen to there. So, period, it does work. As much as I don't like the song. So I had to bump it up. I mean, in terms of my like it scale, it would be right around there with All Time High, duking it out. But in terms of my overall scale, License to Kill by Gladys Knight comes in at number 19.
All right. I have it slightly higher, obviously, since I haven't said it yet. But I definitely don't necessarily disagree with everything you had to say there, but we'll get into it a little bit more. First of all, I'll go ahead and go with my number 19, which was your number 21, You Only Live Twice by Nancy Sinatra. This is another song that actually, I don't hate the song. I do, I'll listen to it. It's right in the mid-range as far as whether I like it or not. It did score lower on the Bond Necessity scale and on the whether it fit the movie or not, because other than the title, it didn't really fit what happened in the movie. So that's why it's as low as 19 for me. Only 3 spots off from where you had it, so that's not too bad. That's besides Die Another Day by Madonna, I think that's the closest one we've come to.
Yeah, we have yet to agree on a single thing. That's pretty awesome. So far our agreement scale is you agreed with Matt Renfro once.
Yeah, we'll see.
And I agreed with neither of you, and I disagreed with Matthew Renfro as strongly as we possibly could.
Well, you have not touched my top 8 yet, so there's still a possibility of some agreement later on. And I'm thinking once we hit the midpoint, the number 13 spot, which is dead center of the 25 list, I'm thinking we might get a little close. I'm doubting we're going to have any spot-on agreements. It'll be surprising to me if we do, but it's possible. I mean, anything's possible. But why don't we get to our barely legal picks then? Number 18.
I will say that you have already broken into my top 10.
Well, so have you. But not my top 8. That's why I specified top 8.
You've broken into my top 8.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then, this could get interesting.
But at our barely legal 18 pick, I have, and this honestly shocked the hell out of me.
You shocked yourself with your own pick.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I honestly thought after we first solidified the rules that this was going to come in at about number 22. So it survived longer.
Oh, okay. So you thought it was going to be lower. Okay.
Yes.
I thought you were thinking it was going to be higher, and then you knocked it down, surprisingly. But no, okay, I understand.
Nope, I thought it was going to be lower, but I went with Never Say Never Again by Lanny Hall.
Yeah, I can.
And the reason that I put it this high is that, on the one hand, and this is where the hypocrisy comes in, ladies and gentlemen, it is 80s adult contemporary radio suckage. Of course it is. I know this. But it's goofy, fun 80s adult contemporary radio suckage. And when you set it against just the bizarre Twilight Zone that was that entire movie to begin with, where the score was something of a combination between what someone might have done with a James Bond movie and porn. I mean, seriously, especially the music when Kim Basinger is dancing, but even throughout the whole thing, there's just kind of a porn track going there. And if you listen to the background orchestrations of this, it really wouldn't be out of place in something that you would see, saying, starring Tracy Lords or something. And I'm not referring to Blade. Or was it Blade 2? I forget which one. But
I want to say Blade 2, but I haven't seen either one in so long. I need to watch Blade again. Thanks for reminding me.
I do too. But the song, I kind of smile at it. I can't help it. So yeah, now we're getting into the threshold where I like the songs now to different degrees. So my threshold is between 19 and 18.
Okay.
I don't really like any of the ones below that. I really hate the bottom two. But now I'm getting to the part where I like them to some degree.
Okay.
And there's just something that's goofy fun about this song. And I was surprised at the number of times I repeat played it, even after I solidified its place on the list, just because I was enjoying it. And I can't explain myself. I don't know why. I think I need a drink. So while I'm doing that, why don't you go on with your next pick?
All right, my barely legal number 18 pick was actually much farther down on your list. You had it at number 23 of 25, and that was All Time High from Octopussy by Rita Coolidge. I agree with most of what you said about the song. It is slow. It is not very Bondy. It doesn't really fit the movie that much. It doesn't even have the title in it. It's not very Bondy, but I enjoy listening to it. I do, and I can't explain why. It's not one that I like go out in public and be like, "Hey, play All Time High." No, but
so I think we have the same explanation for our number 18 pick, just a different song.
It's just one that I do enjoy the song, and I don't know if maybe it reminds me of some weird repressed memory of my parents or grandparents or something, because it seems to be something that my mom or my grandma would listen to be quite honest with you. But I enjoy it. I can't explain it. I don't turn it off when it comes on. That's one of the ones that even when I was replaying the list, even when I went through today doing my finalization and I went through just playing snippets of each song, I just started the song, I'd listen for a few seconds, then I'd skip ahead to the middle, and I'd listen for a few seconds, then I'd skip to the next song just to do a finalist. This one was one of the ones that I let play through. There were a few. This wasn't the only one, but this was one of the ones that I just let play through and just listen to the song. Now, that doesn't mean it's a good song, and that doesn't mean it's a good theme. That's why it's as low on my list as number 18 out of 25. We're definitely not into the top half of the songs yet. Don't make any mistake. This is still not a higher end one. But I do score it a little bit higher, about 5 places higher than you did. So that's my explanation for that.
Okay. And just a little bit of a preview here. If I had to guess what my mom would like on this, I would say she would pick my number 4. But that's just my guess. I don't know for sure, but call it a guess.
My mom's more of a country fan, so I don't know. Actually, you know what? I think she might like my number 4 as well, to be quite honest with you. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, so why don't we go ahead and move on, and we'll slip into the lower numbers here. What song did you have at number 17?
At number 17, I had a song that you have already mentioned, and it surprised me how high this song was on the list. Because when I was originally just running through it in my first draft in my head, I thought, oh, this is definitely going to be bottom 5. It's The Man with the Golden Gun by Lulu. And the reason that it ended up being so high on the list is it absolutely fits the era. And as you said, it's a great description of the villain. It is the biography of the villain.
It is. It's
and
pretty much his resume.
It's goofy as hell. And I admit I skip this track a lot when I'm listening to the Bond themes, but not nearly as often as I'll skip You Only Live Twice or Diamonds Are Forever or All Time High. It's just goofy. But it's the kind of goofy that grows on you. And by the way, trivia for you, Lulu, the person who sings this song, her signature role was in Sidney Poitier's To Sir with Love, which she also sings the theme for.
Ah. Also interesting trivia that no one will care about. Lulu is the nickname of my daughter.
Well, how about that?
Nobody cares. But anyways.
But it grew on me like a fungus. I don't know what it was, but it's just a fun song, and I have to admit that it really, really does fit with the time period. Not necessarily the movie, just because the movie was so schizophrenic, but it at least I can see it. It fits that, and it's got the description of the villain, so I think it's a pretty solid 17. How about for you?
For me, number 17 came in as, and I don't know how high you might have had this, because I know how much, in what esteem you hold the movie itself, but for me, number 17 came in as Shirley Bassey's Moonraker. I love the movie. The movie's fun as all get out, even including the pew, pew, pew. But
Somji lasers.
But for me, the song, it had the Bondness. It definitely had the Bondness. I'm not gonna. I scored it high on that. But as far as whether or not it fit the movie, I didn't really get that spacey action type thing from it personally. There was a few moments in the song where you get that kind of spacey, like floating type of thing, but that wasn't enough for me. And as far as enjoyability, personal listening to it, it's not it's not on the top of my list, it's not the bottom, it's right there in the middle. So it ends up right near the middle of my list here too, at number 17.
All right. And what about your song that ends up being able to drive?
My song with the driver's license is Carly Simon's "Nobody Does It Better" from The Spy Who Loved Me. This song is one of those ones that I like to listen to it. It's fun. It did score low on fitting with the movie, because I don't really think it did, but it did kind of have the elements that I ascribed to a Bond theme, so it did score mediocre in that range as well. But I do like listening to it, and that got it up to the middle of the pack there for me. So Carly Simon's "Nobody Does It Better" from The Spy Who Loved Me.
I admit I am really surprised. I thought you would have that lower, just based on when we were talking about that movie before. So you've surprised me, sir.
Wasn't my favorite of the movies, but I do enjoy the song. Again, like I said, it did score lower. It did score lower on the whether or not it fit that particular movie. To me, it didn't really, but.
And I remember you hitting on that point when we were talking about it before, so maybe that's why I thought you would score it lower. Interesting.
But I enjoy it enough that it kind of brought that up. And again, my scale is weighted fairly heavily towards what I liked compared to the other options that were available for ratings. So there are going to be some discrepancies. Again, as you said, we're going to hit things that the same reason I rank something low is going to be the reason I rank something else higher.
Yeah.
So what's your driver's license number?
My driver's license number, again, shocked me making my own list. It still does, even now. I'm trying to figure out, no, it really belongs lower, but I can't think of where I'd put it. So apparently I put a lot of thought into this by putting it here, because I can't knock it down as much as I really, really want to.
Oh, okay.
And that is "Tomorrow Never Dies" by Sheryl Crow.
All right.
Which, to me, if you, again, take the orchestration behind it, it's really good in terms of its orchestration. And I think that's what made it get so high up, is it's got that noir espionage type of feel to the orchestration. And because the bass is so heavy, the bass guitar particularly, you can actually, if you try hard enough, just concentrate on that and be okay. Because Sheryl Crow sounds like she's doing horrible things to small animals when she's singing.
Yes.
I mean, when she hits that note, I'm not even going to pretend to try and get to when she's saying the word "day" and trying to hold it out, thinking she's some kind of Janis Joplin, Mariah Carey thing. It's just, it sounds so terrible. I mean, if she did that on one of these quote-unquote reality music judging shows, they kick her ass to the curb.
Yes.
Most bar bands I've listened to wouldn't let that happen. I mean,
it's not good. She's just not good. I don't understand her popularity. I never have, because I never thought she was that talented, to be quite honest with you. And this song is a great example for all the reasons you said. That's why it was so low on mine. It was all the way down to 20 on mine. And that's because I did score it higher on the Bondness because of that orchestration. But it scored so low on my listenability scale that's why it was lower for me. But I completely agree with the reason you've got it at the middle of the pack.
And it's not that I entirely hate on her as an artist. I mean, I don't own anything she has except for this one song, and really wouldn't go out of my way for it. But for her range of normal stuff that she does, I mean, it works for her. This is also totally outside of her range. Just caterwauling that high note. It's like, no, this is not what you do. It's just wrong. And I am not the only one who thinks that. You're not the only one who thinks that. Actually, no one else liked this song either. That's why you'll notice that in the actual score for Tomorrow Never Dies, none of the orchestra themes actually cue on this piece of music. It was a deliberate protest. They had this forced on them by the producers.
We don't like this. We will not use it. Thank you. And good night.
Yeah. This was a studio marketing decision to say, we want Sheryl Crow. And she didn't crow, she caterwauled. And all of the dogs in the neighborhood howled.
Yes. Not in the good way. They did it in protest as well.
So, what do you have for your number 15?
Now we're getting closer and closer to that midpoint. And this song, this one, at my number 15, is one of the songs that this is the highest rated song I have as far as my listenability that's on the bottom half of the actual list. And that's
Interesting.
That's because I feel it is so low on the scale of Bond necessosity. Because it scored so lowly, it actually brought it down quite a bit because I didn't feel that it fit the movie. I didn't feel that it fit Bond, but I love the song. It's just a fun song, and that is The Living Daylights by Aha.
Aha!
I mean, it's 80s. It's 80s to a T, but it doesn't fit the movie. It's not a Bond song. It scored, the only song that scored as low on my Bondness scale was Die Another Day by Madonna. This
Wow.
song scored as low as that on that particular scale, but this song is infinitely more listenable. I like the song. It's a fun song. And that's why it managed to get into the almost, coming right up to that halfway point, even though it's not a good Bond theme. But the song itself brings it up.
So Aha takes on you, but it doesn't take on Bond. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It does. It does.
All right. Well, in my number 15 slot, I have my first entry from the wild card picks.
Ooh.
And that is by the man himself, Satchmo, Mr. Louis Armstrong. We Have All the Time in the World, which people who bought any Bond compilation before the 30th anniversary probably thought was the actual theme to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, because most compilation albums called it that because they didn't include John Barry's orchestral piece. But no, I'm putting this in, and the reason I'm putting it at this particular spot and why I'm including it in this list at all, because on the surface, it doesn't sound like a James Bond song, quote unquote. I freely admit this. But what it does sound like extremely well, and I think it captures it so beautifully, is that part of On Her Majesty's Secret Service that I told you I enjoyed when we were doing our quote-unquote abomination episode. And that's the courtship of James Bond. Mm-hmm. This is a wonderful James Bond love theme, and I can just instantly picture it to scenes from the movie. I can picture them when they're in the garage and he makes his he says it's a New Year's resolution and it's not New Year yet. And just seeing Diana Rigg, I totally picture this song. I get it. And it's just, I think it captures that so well. And I think it's such a core part of the James Bond universe, that moment of the courtship of 007. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a beautiful song that I have to include it.
Absolutely, and I won't get too much into it, but this is one of the wild cards that I also have on my list, although it did actually rank higher. So,
and this is the one that I thought we would both pick.
Me too. This is the one that I thought would be on both of our lists, and it sure is. And in fact, they're not too disparate as far as where they are on the list, but mine is a little bit higher. So that puts us up right into the middle three, doesn't it? Into number 14.
It does indeed.
Do you want to go with your number 14, or do you want me to go with mine?
Well, my number 14 is one that you have already mentioned.
Okay.
It is from a movie that I absolutely love. Pew pew! It is Shirley Bassey's theme from Moonraker.
All right, okay. So we weren't too far off on that. I had a feeling that, for some reason, I had it in my head that your love for that movie would drive that song higher. As it stands, I had it at 17, you have it at 14, so that's not too separate. It's only a few places off, but why did it rank so highly on your list?
One, it's Shirley Bassey, and yeah, I know I ranked one of her songs way low, but she does have just such an incredible performance. And the other song, yeah, it wasn't her performance at all that was the problem. It was everything else. Whereas this one, she's got the incredible performance, and the song works as a James Bond love theme. It's got that wistful kind of travel thing that From Russia with Love had going for it that kept it a little further up the list. Mm-hmm. It's also It's got that space feel you mentioned. I mean, not really incredibly so, but a little bit. And I'm also cheating. I am counting it as 2 songs because I'm also counting in the disco version at the end, which is so totally this movie.
Okay.
And it also vaguely reminds me of the disco version of the Star Wars theme, which is just awesome.
All right.
If you haven't heard the disco version of Star Wars by Miko, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, give it a listen. It's tons of fun. And I'm not a disco guy, I promise. But it's just the song in that particular mix, and it's part of the movie, so it counts. It just fits the goofy sci-fi tone with the lasers, with Jaws, so well that both aspects of the song and Shirley Bassey's performance, and it's just a listenable tune. That's what puts it almost middle of the pack for me.
Okay. I can definitely see that. And like I said, we only scored it about 3 points off, or 3 places off, I should say. For me, number 14 comes in. This was your bottom of the heap and Matthew Renfro's top of the pile. And I came in almost dead center, 1 spot off of dead center, which is amusing to me that it's number 1 for him, number 25 for you, and number 14 for me. And that's another
What the hell is wrong with both of you? No, just kidding.
And that is Another Way to Die from Quantum of Solace by Jack White and Alicia Keys. And now, this song scored very high on my listenability, and that's mostly because I like Jack White's style. I do. It's weird. It's not the kind of stuff I would normally listen to, but I like it, and I've always liked his stuff. I've liked stuff from him in the past, and I enjoy Alicia Keys as well. I've actually seen her in concert twice, believe it or not. I haven't been to that many concerts, and I've seen her live twice. She's a very, very talented performer. I really enjoy her stuff. This song scored very low on its Bondness scale. I did not feel that it was a very Bondy song at all. But I like the song enough that it drove it up to where it fit. And I did score it fairly high on its matching up with this particular movie. Because I felt...
Why? I have to put it in that particular tone of voice. Why?
Well, because I felt the movie, Quantum of Solace, kind of separated itself. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. But it didn't fit the same mold as the other Bond movies. It was just kind of there to me. Like you said, it was almost like a part 2 of Casino Royale, except it was completely different. And I don't know, because of that, I felt that the song being completely different as well fit that. And again, this is completely subjective. This is just my thoughts on the subject, and it's so crazy to think that, out of 3 people polled, you've got one person ranking this song at the top, one person ranking this song at the bottom, and me coming in almost dead center on this one. It's amazing to me that that's where it happened to fall. That's why I was like, wow, when you said what your number 25 was after having said what Fro's number 1 was, I was like, that's just odd.
Just to get on an aside with that, this reminds me of one of the most brilliant observations I've ever seen about culture. From the humorist Dave Barry.
Oh, I love him.
In his book, Dave Barry Does Japan. And he was describing how when he was going through the country, he noticed how everyone fit in a very specific cultural pattern. You saw most people who were off to work dressed alike, and people behaving in a very proscribed manner. And it was just a cultural observation, and he was just floored by how conformist he thought the society was. Whereas his observation was, you can't get 6 Americans to agree on pizza toppings.
No, you'll have to get 6 pizzas, pretty much.
Much less to agree to dress the same. And that very much reminds me of how just the 3 of us placed this one song.
Just so disparate from one to the next. It's crazy. But yeah, for me, that's one of the songs that I'll go back to and just listen to because I enjoy the song. And that drove it up a little bit for me. And plus the fact that I did feel it matched the movie a little bit.
And just to go back to Mr. Renfro's assessment of the song, now that we've all been able to bring it up, I'm not, like we mentioned, this is a totally subjective list. Nobody here's an idiot. Everybody has their own views and their own tastes, and that's totally cool. I actually like Matt Renfro's taste in music most of the time. I enjoy the Fro Show as well. It's just that with how he described that he thought it was really cool that you have two powerhouses going at the James Bond series. I don't care what your resume is. Because at that point, it would be, for me anyway, it's like justifying Sheryl Crow for Tomorrow Never Dies, even though the people who were doing the score didn't want that. Just because, okay, you have somebody who is a powerhouse who sells tickets to concerts. It's just, I don't care what your resume is. You have to fit the mold in some way, and I just do not see this fitting the mold at all. And it just doesn't work for me. Like I said, I respect your opinions, but
wrong.
They are definitely not mine. And yeah, okay, in private, you're wrong.
As I always say, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, no matter how wrong those opinions may be.
Absolutely. Oh, and just in case anyone was wondering, my own personal taste in music in general is entirely all over the map. To give you an example of 2 different weeks in 2 different years, in 1 week at the exact same venue, I went to see 9 Inch Nails, and 6 days later, I went to see Steely Dan.
Okay.
And then the next year, I went to see Lacuna Coil and Diana Krall in the same week. And I listen to pretty much everything. I have, even the genres I don't listen to a lot, I still listen to some. I'm not a huge country fan. I have some. I'm not a huge rap fan. I have some. Mm-hmm. So I don't consider myself a hater in any way. And like I tried to be a little objective here, but yeah, this song just does nothing for me.
And that's totally fair. I'm very much like you in my taste. I like a little bit of every genre, pretty much. I like very, very little of every genre. I'm actually extremely picky. Like, one person might have one song of theirs that I enjoy. I might love that song, but I don't like anything else they've ever done. And it's the same thing, like you said, with country, for example. I love most of Garth Brooks' catalog. Can't explain it, I just do. Like, most of his stuff I could listen to all the time. Every other country artist out there, no. There's maybe 1 or 2 other country songs total that I enjoy. I'm just not a big fan of the genre. But Garth Brooks, for some reason, transcends all that, and I'm like, yeah, give me some Garth, woo, all right. Like, I could put my, before I changed phones and lost all my music and have to reload everything, I could pop my phone in, put it on random, and you'd hear Snoop Dogg one track, Garth Brooks the next, Michael Bublé the next track after that. I mean, it jumps all over the map as far as what I listen to. And it's really just a matter of, I find the songs I like. I don't pick a particular genre and say, I like all of this, or I like all of this artist. It's more of, I like this song. I don't care who did it or what genre they claim it is. I like this song. So I totally understand that, flipping all over the place, and sometimes a song just doesn't speak to you like it does to everybody else. I find that all the time with popular music. Anything that's considered popular, there's like, I'll listen to the radio here. One of the guys at work likes to listen to one of these radio stations that claim to be top 40, but they only play the same 10 songs all day long.
Of course.
So I'm not sure how they claim to be top 40. They don't even play 40 different songs in a day. But 9 of those 10 songs I can't stand. And it's not repetition. I couldn't stand them the first time I heard them. It's one of those things that, and then there's like that one song that I'm like, I really like this song, and then it gets overplayed and I don't like it anymore. But, it's always this, even the stuff that other people consider popular, and I can't stand. It just grates on me. I'm like, this is horrible. So I completely understand. It's a complete tangent. Perfect, because we hit the midpoint of our list, the exact dead center midpoint. So it's time to reveal where we think the middle of the pack is. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Party on, Garth.
All right. At my number 13, dead center, middle of the pack, Duran Duran's A View to a Kill. This song ranked very high on my listenability scale. I enjoyed it. I enjoy the song. I enjoyed Duran Duran for the most part. I thought it didn't really fit the movie very well, and I didn't score it particularly high in its Bondness because it didn't really speak to me as a Bond song, but I love the song. So that's where it kind of raised itself up to the middle, and that's where I placed it. Dead center is A View to a Kill.
Very interesting choice.
What's your dead center pick?
My dead center pick, and it actually surprises me that it got this low. I'll be completely honest. Because I really like this song. It's just a beautiful song. And that is For Your Eyes Only by Sheena Easton. The only person who we ever got to see during the credits singing the song. And hell, she could be a Bond girl. So, worked for me. the song is just gorgeous. I love this song. Mm-hmm. And I like how they figured out how to work the title in there. Because it's not one of those titles you'd expect, but I'm glad they didn't cop out like they did with the next movie, which, of course, was Octopussy, and they came up with All Time High. I think the only real artist playing at the time who could have done a song called Octopussy would have been the Beastie Boys.
Wiki, 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 Bond. Wiki, 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 Octopussy. No, I don't think that would have worked.
I really don't think you could have gotten away with it. I'll throw him a gimme for that one, but I'm just saying I like how they managed to get the title in here and make it work. And the song is gorgeous. It is. I think, one of the better love songs of the 80s. And I really, really love the opening note that sounds like the crossbow. That's just great. A wonderful tie-in to the movie and a wonderful tie-in to the character of Melina, which is good because otherwise it doesn't quite hit the relevance scale. Now, it does, thanks to both the orchestration and Sheena Easton's voice, feel like a Bond song, but in an abstract kind of way.
Okay. Well,
so that's why it ended up not being as high as I originally thought it was.
Okay. I can see that, and obviously since I haven't mentioned that song, that means it's in my top half, and we'll see just how high into my top half that one got a little bit later. But no, I completely understand everything you said. In fact, everything you've said is exactly why I rated it higher.
Outstanding.
But how about slipping, and now we're actually into the top half. We're into the really good stuff now.
Woo!
What was your number 12?
My number 12, which I will be surprised if this is on your list at all. We are in the wild cards.
Okay.
And this is If There Was a Man by the Pretenders, which is the love theme from The Living Daylights. The instrumental version of which is called Into Vienna on the soundtrack, by the way, which is, especially if you can get the extended edition, one of my favorite Bond soundtracks overall, period. John Barry's score is awesome, and I love all the songs on it. So for this particular one, the reasons that I chose it were it feels very much like a Bond song in atmosphere. To me, it brings to mind the points in the movie where you hear it play. I mean, it sets the scene. It fits the scene. It's just perfect for it. When Kara and Bond are enjoying their globetrotting, as it were, as Bond pretends to be trying to help her find Koskov, when in fact he's trying to use her to find him. But it's just a really nice theme for them, and it's just such a beautiful song. And then I assigned it something more. I went meta with this one. And the way I did that is if you listen to the lyrics, which in and of themselves aren't that Bondish if you take out the orchestration and the arrangement, but if you listen to the lyrics on an abstract scale, it's the kind of song that you imagine all of the wannabe Bond girls, or to be totally fair, all the wannabe Bond boys, thinking when they're thinking of a character like Bond. They want to meet Bond and be swept off their feet by Bond. This is the appeal of the character, just some of the heart of why we love James Bond. A lot of what we were talking about in a previous episode. It's that and this is just the wistful longing for that. Whereas on the opposite end of the scale, for all the wannabe Bonds out there, you wish someone would want to sing this song about you. Don't deny it. If you do, you're a heartless bastard. Screw you. I mean, this is like wedding music. I mean, this is a gorgeous song. And in combining how it really brings to mind the movie for me, and just how I think it really captures that meta point about who Bond is and who the audience is in relation to Bond, either as Bond or as someone who wishes they could be swept by Bond. Mm-hmm. That's why I rate If There Was a Man by the Pretenders from The Living Daylights as number 12. Okay.
I am a little bit surprised because honestly, I thought that your wildcard picks would be lower in the bottom half. So, which I shouldn't say it surprises me too much because my wildcard picks, obviously, we haven't gotten to any of them yet. So
indeed, which surprises me, by the way, a lot.
All of my wildcard picks are also in my top half, so I don't know why I should be surprised that yours are. But that one did not make my list, as you said. Not necessarily surprising, but I understand your reasoning. And in fact, if I recall, I don't have that list in front of me to view right this exact second, but I believe that this one was the one that just barely didn't make the cut from the wildcard list. So it's very possible that this would have scored higher than some of the official tracks that would be. In fact, I wish I'm wondering now if I do have access to it, because I thought I had uploaded it, so maybe I just do, and I'll interject that later if I can find it. I think this would have supplanted one of the actual themes had that been allowed, but because it wasn't, it didn't make the list because it wasn't in my top 3 of the wild cards. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I do.
Okay, just making sure. Sometimes
there were 22 songs we absolutely had to use, could not leave off the list.
Exactly. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that one did actually hit number 4 of that wild card list. So it just barely missed the cut for me. For me, though, going into the first song in the top half, the first of the better songs, I suppose we want to say, but it really, this is one of the ones that actually scored a little bit lower for me on listenability, but I felt it really was Bondy, and I felt it fit the movie itself fairly well, so it did end up scoring higher. And plus, come on, Tom Jones. Thunderball.
I knew you were going to say that the moment you started describing the song.
Thunderball by Tom Jones. First of all, Tom Jones is a legend. I mean, just a legend. I love Tom Jones. But also, the song is just really good. I mean, it's just a really good song. It's a fun song. And I feel that it did fit the movie well. Even though we'll get into some things later where I think that there could have been better options, but I think it did fit the movie fairly well. Obviously, it ties into the movie because it has the title and everything like that, but I felt it was very Bondish, and it's a fun song. It's good to listen to, and so that is why it did crack that top half. Right at the bottom of the top half for me, but that's where it stands. Number 12, Thunderball by Tom Jones.
Outstanding. So you throw your panties onto the stage at number 12.
Dang right. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, moving on to number 11 on the list, I'm going to keep with the exact same movie I just talked about, and I'm going to rank a-ha's theme, The Living Daylights, at number 11. I love this song. It is so freaking awesome. I agree with you. This is one of the most listenable ones on the list. It is. This is one of the ones that I don't skip. I repeat. I repeat this a lot. And I think, again, this is another one of those where the time period that the movie is in, taking Bond as an 80s action movie, because that's what this is, 1987, this is an 80s action movie song, assuming you have a Euro setting, which you do. So I gave that as part of weight to fitting into being a good Bond theme song. Plus, the orchestration, it feels James Bondish. It's got that sense of adventure, danger, almost Spy Hunter to it. I mean, you have a softer Peter Gunn thing going on here. So that's why I like The Living Daylights by a-ha at number 11.
All right. No, I totally understand, because I do, like I said, that was the highest ranked for listenability of my bottom half songs, because it's a great song. It's a fun song. But for me, it just didn't have enough Bond elements to bring it into that top half for me personally. But I completely get you. And honestly, I mean, we're only 4 places off on that one, so it's not like it's a huge difference between us. But I completely understand your reasoning for giving that number 11 spot.
And what did you give to that spot?
For me, my number 11 came in. I did not hate this song as much as you did. You had this all the way down at number 19, and that was Gladys Knight's License to Kill.
I was wondering when this was going to show up.
This wasn't, obviously not my favorite of the themes, and in listenability, it is actually a little bit lower on the list, but I do think I felt that it had the elements necessary to be a Bond song, and I felt that it matched the movie fairly well. So I ranked it a little bit higher, and you just shy of cracking my top 10, but not quite. It's a song I will listen to again. I do enjoy it. Gladys Knight is obviously a fantastic performer. Even if her heart wasn't fully in it, even half of Gladys Knight's heart is better than a lot of current performers today, to me.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I can't disagree with that.
But so that's why it ranked a little bit higher for me. Actually, quite a bit higher. I mean, that was one of our biggest differences so far, next to Another Way to Die, with a full. What's that? I ranked that at number 11. You had it at 19, so that's 8 places difference. That's quite a big separation there. But again, it comes down to me, the listenability. I enjoy listening to this song, and you don't. So obviously, I'm going to rank it higher.
Fair enough. And that, I think, is going to break us to the top 10, except we're not going to have David Letterman or another celebrity read it.
Now we are into the top 10. Yes, absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting, because I notice that several of my top 10, it looks like only 3 so far, by my count, you've already listed. I don't know how many of your top 10 I've already listed, but it should be somewhere similar-ish, but not
similar-ish,
but not necessarily, because I do have all 3 of my wild cards ended up in the top 10.
Indeed.
So,
which surprises me a lot.
So that does make things a little bit more interesting, because who knows? That leaves. We've already said that one of those is in both of our lists, but the other 2 could be completely different. So we could be quite a bit different. We could have almost a 50-50 split, completely different top 10 lists. That's pretty amazing.
And this is
actually
why I threw those wild cards in there, ladies and gentlemen.
That's actually pretty darn amazing, and I like it. I like it a lot. So, do you want to do the honors of cracking the top 10 list?
Number 10, as I wish I remembered which writer described the song this way, but it's the best description of it I ever heard. Belted Out with Gusto by Tom Jones. Thunderball. It is such a James Bond song. I mean, this is James Bond. I mean, this is the Sean Connery James Bond biography. I mean, this is the suave. This is the, big, burly. I don't want to use the phrase big swinging dick, because we've used that for Telly Savalas, but come on.
I'm pretty sure
works
Tom Jones,
for this song.
I'm pretty sure Tom Jones can qualify for that as well. So,
and Sean Connery, for that matter.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, this is Connery Bond in a nutshell. It's just a wonderful Bond song. Totally fits the movie, totally fits the character, and just really, really strong, fun listen. I was actually kind of surprised at how high I put it, until I really thought, I was like, no, this song just rocks. So at number 10, I am not throwing underwear on the stage, but I am voting for Tom Jones, the guy most likely out of all the people singing Bond themes to want to be James Bond himself, I think, singing Thunderball.
All right. No, I'm not going to disagree with you too much there at all, since I did have that at number 12. Still in the top half, just barely out of the top 10, but I completely agree with everything you said there. So it makes perfect sense to me. For me, top 10 starts with one of our wild cards. The one wild card we both had in common, as a matter of fact, that we know of so far, and that is that we have All the Time in the World from On Her Majesty's Secret Service by Louis Armstrong. And part of that is just the pure awesomeness that is Louis Armstrong. I mean, he makes that song. It's just a wonderful song. It's beautiful. I ranked it very high in listenability because it's just a great song. It's middle of the pack when it comes to Bondiness, because it really is more of a love song than it is a Bond song. But I felt it really, really fit the movie, so it scored high on fitting that particular movie. So, for me, that's my number 10. We Have All the Time in the World by Louis Armstrong.
And another thing worth noting, that is the last song that he recorded for popular release. So very, very fitting coda to a just incredible, giant music career. I would say one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century, if not ever. Louis Armstrong is just awesome.
Yes. Fantastic. There's so many times when I hear people with a unique voice that just isn't good. I hear people describe, they've got such a unique voice. Well, that's unique doesn't necessarily mean good. Who's it? Macy Gray is a great example. I can't stand her voice. It's awful. It grates on my nerves. It makes me want to stab my ears out with a pencil. It's awful. Another one that Shakira. Shakira has a very unique voice. I don't like listening to her music. I love watching her videos, but I don't like listening to her music. Louis Armstrong, on the other hand, has a very unique voice in a good way. It's very unique. It's very interesting, but it's still pleasant. It still makes me happy to hear it, as opposed to some of these others.
And it is so
where
rich.
It is. It's amazing. So that's why that song ended up in the top 10 for me.
Outstanding choice. And what about for your number 9, sir?
Number 9 may be one of our biggest separations, I think, just counting the places here. This song you had placed all the way down at number 22. That is Shirley Bassey's Diamonds Are Forever. This song,
I admit I'm shocked.
This song, for me, very listenable. It's not the highest rated by far, of course, but it's very listenable for me. I do enjoy the song. I mean, Shirley Bassey, she really can do no wrong, in my opinion, too much. I think the lowest I rated any of her songs was 18 for Moonraker, and that was mostly because I didn't really feel that it fit the movie that well. But this one, I really enjoyed the song. I do enjoy listening to it. I felt that it had the elements necessary for a Bond movie. Now, granted, Shirley Bassey's always going to score high in that regard, because I almost, like my first thoughts when I think of what a Bond song should be immediately fall to some of Shirley Bassey's work. So, obviously she's going to score high in that regard, almost no matter what. But I really do enjoy this song, and I felt that it fit the movie, and I felt that it fit the Bond theme, and that's why it ranked number 9 for me, even though it was all the way down at number 22 for you. Explain yourself, sir. No, I'm just kidding.
I just think it's boring. I just don't like it. I mean, that's basically what it amounts to. Okay. And I did not think that it felt very Bondish at all. I think it felt like a De Beers commercial, but that was about it.
No, I can understand that. I can wrap my brain around the thought process. I don't agree, obviously, but
that's all right. That's fine. See, this is why you have a show with 2 hosts.
Exactly.
So you can have discussions like this.
So that came in at my number 9. How about you? What came in at your number 9? What broke single digits for you?
What broke single digits for me is a song that I'm going to be bold here and predict is in your top 3.
Okay.
Tina Turner doing GoldenEye.
Oh, I will let you know that you are correct in your wager there, sir. I won't tell you where, but yes, top 3 it did make. In fact, I am almost shocked and appalled that you would rank it as low as number 9.
I'm actually vaguely surprised that it broke the top 10.
Oh, come on now. It's such a
Now, I noticed it broke the top 10.
Okay.
It's just when I was initially doing my, just gathering songs together, just putting them all in a pile and just trying to imagine, okay, where you think this is going to go with before you really give it some thought, I thought this would end up in the middle.
Okay.
But
I can understand that. I disagree wholeheartedly, but I can understand. But no, for me, that one was definitely a better song. But tell me why it ranked as number 9 for you.
But after listening to it, it feels like a Bond song. It just does. I mean, you can't get past it. The atmosphere of the Bond song is there. Mm-hmm. And if anyone's going to come close to Shirley Bassey in terms of gusto female performance, it's Tina Turner.
Absolutely.
And she's somewhere between Shirley Bassey and Bond girl. So let's be honest there. And the lyrics absolutely fit the movie. You have a bit of a description of the villain in there. It's just the thing that keeps it further down for me is the lyrics sound so contrived. They just like somebody was deliberately trying and they kind of forced the pieces to fit. And because you have such talent behind them and because the orchestration is done so well, it works. But for me, if I'm listening to this in any context other than what it is, the theme to GoldenEye, I'm like, where the hell did this come from? And that is what keeps it at number 9 for me.
Okay. But it's still in the top 10, so I'm happy with that. I'll be satisfied with that.
So what do you have at number 8, at your next spot, sir?
My number 8 spot, and this is another one of our wild card picks. This is the song that should have been the theme to Thunderball. Another great performance by Shirley Bassey, in my opinion, and that is Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I like this song. I enjoy listening to it, and I think as high as I rated Tom Jones' Thunderball song, I still think that this should have been the theme. And the fact that it wasn't only because it didn't have the words Thunderball in it is stupid. Especially since they've proven later on that, hey, you know what? It's okay to leave the title of the movie out of the song, especially out of the song title. So for me, it's Shirley Bassey's rendition of Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang that really epitomizes what a Bond theme should be. I mean, it really fits. It fits the movie. It fits the theme. It's not as high up on listenability as some other ones. That's why it's as low as number 8. But it really topped out the scales in the other two. So that is my number 8. Did that one make your list at all?
It did not make my list. And it was with some consideration, because after we'd agreed on what songs were eligible, I thought about it later. I'm like, the song actually only appears in a movie as an orchestration version. It doesn't appear as this particular version of it, but it does appear in some ways. So I'm like, okay, fine. That's why I decided to see if you'd use it. I kind of thought you might, and I can't fault you for it. But I agree on the listenability scale, it's kind of off, but it does fit the character. In fact, the name of the song came from what Japanese fans were calling James Bond. That's where the title Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang came from.
Makes sense. I mean, it's
Japanese fans calling him Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And you can take Bang Bang however you want. So I understand why you would put it here and why it fits. I just couldn't bring it into the list.
Okay. It's fair enough. But I felt that I owed it to Shirley Bassey for putting Moonraker so low in the bottom half that I had to bring another one of her tracks in. No, just kidding. No, it's really, that's what it came down to. It was out of all the songs I listened to that I felt qualified for this discussion, that's how high this one ranked. I just enjoy the song quite a bit.
I understand. Now, at my number 8 is the song that I think we're going to have the single biggest disagreement on.
Uh-oh.
You have to know what it is, all things considered, because you know what I haven't mentioned yet.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at my list here of official songs, and there's only 2 that I ranked really fairly low that you haven't mentioned yet, and if it's the one that's really low, I'm going to just be very disappointed.
You are going to be very disappointed in me because I don't think The World Is Not Enough is garbage.
Oh, wow. That cracked your top 10?
You see, I thought it was one of the best parts of the movie.
Well, now, on that particular point, I can't necessarily disagree. However, that doesn't make it a good song. But no, explain further, please.
I think it has very much the feel of a James Bond song. It's just that really heavy, sultry, heady orchestration. And the voice, I think, has that little bit of suggestiveness to it without getting sleazy, like I think happened in the Alicia Keys version. Because as I noted when I was leading into my mention of Another Way to Die, is there is a big difference between sleazy and sultry.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that this is a very nice sultry tune, and it just has the overall atmospheric of a Bond song, and it's just so listenable. It's good, and it fits, I think, even though the title is James Bond's family motto, and in theory it's talking about Bond, if you really listen to it, it's Electra King. Okay. So it's a description of the character.
Right.
Except just as Electra King was duplicitous in the movie, the song is making you think you're talking about the hero, whereas you're really talking about the villain.
Right.
And I really like how that happened. I think the writing for this was much more clever than the writing was for the movie. So.
And to be perfectly fair, I did rank this one high on my Bond necessity scale. That one, it did rank fairly high on that. It just ranked so low on my would I actually listen to the damn thing scale that it was ranked. That's what brought it all the way down to number 22 for me. So I do agree with you that it fit the Bond theme and that it fit within the movie itself. But I just don't like it. That's what it comes down to, honestly.
Fair enough, and I think that's our one major point of disagreement is I really like it and you don't. But there we go. That's my number 8. All right, now we're going to crack the top 007 of the list. So, who is your number 007?
For me, number 7 is another one of our wild cards. The same artist as one of the wild cards you mentioned previously, but different song. And this one is The Pretenders from The Living Daylights, but the song is Where Has Everybody Gone? This song, I really enjoyed the song. It may not have been extremely Bondy. It may not have fit that movie. I mean, it fit that scene, definitely, but not the movie necessarily extremely well. But I love the song. It's a very good song. I personally found it better than If There Was a Man. So that's why it ranks higher for me. And so that is my number 7. Where Has Everybody Gone by The Pretenders.
I will tell you that it is not on my list, and not because I don't like it, because I frickin' love this song. This is another one of those where I don't just play it, I put it on repeat. And I love Chrissie Hynde's voice. I think she has a great voice, especially for Bond. I think she fits very well. And there's a few political undertones in there that you can kind of throw into the espionage thing, but the reason I didn't include it in the list at all is it just wasn't Bondy enough for me to really make a major justification for throwing it in there. Even though it's instantly identifiable for where it's used, because of course we have the dude carrying the Walkman! Yay, time identifier! But I just couldn't come up with a reason to put it in the list other than I really like it. So that's why it's not on mine, but I completely agree. Great song. Like I said, people, look for the Living Daylights soundtrack, preferably the extended version so you get the extra orchestrations from Mr. Barry. Totally worth it. One of the best of the Bond soundtracks overall. However, for me, coming in at number 007 is Nobody Does It Better by Carly Simon from The Spy Who Loved Me.
I knew that had to be the next one because there was only one more on the list that I'm kind of surprised hasn't come up yet. I knew it had to be one of 2, and that was one of them. I ranked this one all the way down at number 16, so quite a bit of difference there. So why do you have this one so highly ranked?
One, beautiful song. It just is.
Oh, yeah.
And probably one of the only reason that a lot of guys out there know a Carly Simon song and may have belted it out in the car occasionally when they thought no one was listening. But the other thing is it has such a solid place in the canon and history of Bond. I mean, for a lot of people, they just identify this song immediately with the Roger Moore, James Bond era. It's just almost the signature piece of music for it. And that weight of history is kind of hard to ignore. Mm-hmm. And also, along the same lines of how I was describing If There Was a Man by the Pretenders, this is the audience of wannabe Bond girls and wannabe Bond boys describing their thoughts about, I want to be swept away by this 007. Mm-hmm. It's a relationship between the audience and the franchise, and not just and the characters. So not just and the character, but also and the franchise itself. They love these movies. Nobody does it better than James Bond. Of course, we'll always go see a James Bond movie. We don't care who's in it, who directed it, obviously, because we watched on Her Majesty's Secret Service. So,
oh, ouch. Sick burn. No, I agree for the most part. Again, this one scored a little bit lower for me, but I understand where you have the ranking, and I could see it. I could see it, but it definitely not a top 10 for me, but I understand where you would place that.
So what do you have for number 6?
Number 6, I have the one that you picked as the dead center, and that was For Your Eyes Only by Sheena Easton. For me, this song is immensely listenable. I felt that it really fit the movie very well, and I felt that it had the necessary characteristics, mostly, to be a Bond theme, so it scored fairly highly on that as well. And again, some of it may be nostalgia, because again, this was the very first Bond movie I ever saw. I didn't know it was a Bond movie at the time, I didn't understand what I was watching, but it was the very first Bond movie I ever physically saw myself. And so this theme song does have kind of a special place in my heart, and that's why it comes in so high. Not quite cracking the top 5, but still right in there at number 6, For Your Eyes Only by Sheena Easton.
Can't say I disapprove of any of your reasons. Like I said, well, once we got to this section, they're really close in terms of how good they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're getting into the ones that I just love. We're getting really close to the songs that I just absolutely love listening to, regardless of Bondness.
Yeah. Now, my number 6 is one that, if I could have laid money, I would have, that I had it lower than you did. And it's not because it's a bad song. It's a great song. It is an awesome song. It is, in fact, to the general public viewpoint, when you're trying to say, what is a James Bond song? What one song defined all other aspects of what a James Bond song would be? It is, of course, the female version of Tom Jones belting out Thunderball with gusto, which we could actually say Tom Jones is the male version of this. Shirley Bassey belting out Goldfinger with gusto.
Yeah. And you would be correct that you had it a little bit lower than me, but just barely, I will tell you that. But yeah, go on.
This, as I say, it's the theme that patterned what the theme should be. Just such a awesome, just thunderbolt from the gods performance.
Oh, absolutely.
And even years later, when she's in her 70s, the woman has still got it. Did you see the Oscars, man?
It was
if you haven't,
pretty amazing.
If you didn't see it, and I understand because it's a very pretentious show, but look it up on YouTube. I mean, just this performance is amazing. And just the studio recording is amazing. She almost passed out doing the studio recording, by the way, because she was trying to sing until the orchestration finished, and the note carried longer than she thought. But she kept going because she was a trooper like that. And holy crap, it was awesome. Just an outstanding piece of music, infinitely listenable, and just adventurous, intrigue. James Bond as a franchise in a nutshell. Goldfinger by Shirley Bassey, my number 6.
And I can't really disagree with anything you said, which is in fact why that exact same song is the first in my top 5. At number 5, for me, is Goldfinger by Shirley Bassey. I mean, we were only one spot off there. I ranked it just barely higher than you. I mean, it could have been a coin flip as to which one was going to be higher, honestly. The only reason that one ranked higher for me than For Your Eyes Only was because I felt it was more Bondish. That topped the charts on my Bondness scale. And it is just immensely listenable. It's a great song. It fits the movie. It fits Bond. It is a fantastic song. And now that we're into the top 5, we really are into the best of the best. I mean, we're talking, besides the bottom few spots, really, we're talking about good songs all the way through. These are the best of the best. And for me, Shirley Bassey singing Goldfinger, it does not get much better than that. It only gets, out of 25 possible spots, it only gets 4 better than that. So it's really, really good. Again, that is kind of when I was doing my scale of Bondness, what fits a Bond theme, everything kind of came back to that one. In fact, if it wasn't for some of these other songs just being more listenable for me, this could have easily been my number 1. But as far as Bondness goes, this is definitely top of the list for me. This is the one that defines what a Bond theme should be for me. So that's why it cracks my top 5 at number 5.
Okay. Now for me, Goldfinger defines what a theme about the Bond villain should be. My number 5 is one of the most clever uses to me of a theme in a Bond film, because it is telling you not only the film and the biography of our main character, but it is also making the promise that the movie's making that we are going to introduce the character as you knew him in a different way, and you will like him. And of course, that can only mean that I'm talking about You Know My Name by Chris Cornell from Casino Royale, which is the biography of James Bond when he's still not allowed to say his name. You know my name. My name is Bond, James Bond, but I am not going to say it until this movie is over because I'm going to prove I've earned the right to say it. And it's James Bond's biography. It's perfect. It's just wonderfully done, well written, just awesome use of a song for a James Bond film. And like you said, they're all getting great now. So this is just a really fantastic song and just screams not just Bond franchise, but Bond, James Bond. Yeah. This is his song.
I
even more so than Thunderball.
I completely agree, and that's why, obviously, I haven't mentioned this song yet, which means it's up there for me as well. Everything you said is spot on. Not only is it perfect for the Bond franchise, it was perfect for that movie. Because of the reasons you said, because they were proving something. They were saying, look, we can do a Bond movie without having to rely on the gimmicks of the old franchise. We can do a Bond movie that is good in its own right. And you don't need us to say what's going on. You don't need us to say shaken and not stirred. You don't need us to say Bond, James Bond. You know. And you will know based on this movie, and that song epitomizes that. And so I completely agree with everything you said there. In fact, the only thing that I disagree with is that you had it as low as number 5.
Fair enough.
But no, definitely good top 5 material. I completely, wholeheartedly agree with you on that one.
So what do you have at number 4, sir?
At number 4 is one of the few Bond theme songs I still, to this day, hear regularly on the radio. And by regularly, I mean almost every single day. I listen to a station mostly that plays different songs all day long, so they don't repeat the same song. That's their whole gimmick, is that they don't repeat a song all day long. But yet, they pretty much play the same songs every day.
Of course.
They just don't repeat the same song in the same day, which is still good when I'm at work and listening. And
I bet I know what song this is, and I knew you would put this at number 4.
I'm sure you do, because it's the only one that does get regular airtime, even though it's not this version of it that usually gets as much airtime. But my number 4 is Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney and the Wings. It is just a fantastic song. It's fun to listen to. It's got everything I need from a Bond theme, because it not only you've got the differences in tempos, you've got the differences in theatrics, you've got different pieces of the movie in every bit of the song. It's not just the same thing all the way through. It's just a fantastic song. It's really well done. And for me, it's one of the best theme songs for any movie that I've ever heard, and definitely one of the top 4 for the Bond themes. So that's why Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney and the Wings comes in at my number 4 spot.
Okay. And it, at least in the places where I've lived, actually this version gets played more than the other one.
Really?
Yeah. But either way, holy shit, we agreed on something.
Oh my gosh.
My number 4 is Paul McCartney and Wings. Not The Wings, because that's what they had for lunch, but just Wings. But this is just the quintessential adventure movie theme song. I mean, you just feel the boat chase. You feel any chase. It is rockin'. It is all that is action about 007. That guitar, it's just infinitely listenable. It's just all of the explosiveness of the James Bond franchise and all the explosiveness of Bond and just the adventure, all of it is there. Mm-hmm. Though I have to admit that if I ever catch myself mouthing, or possibly, though I won't ever admit to, singing out loud the words, when you get to the part where you're going to give the other fella hell, I always read it as though Samuel L. Jackson wrote the lyrics. So...
My spot in that song always comes when they're like, you know you do, you know you do, you know you do. That's the part I always sing. No matter how much I'm restraining myself, it'll be coming on at work. I'm sitting there at my desk doing my work. I'm on the phone with a customer. I'm like, mute. You know you do.
Eric
time.
Dewey as one of the Bee Gees.
Every time. I just can't help myself. It's just one of those things. It is absolutely fantastic. No, that's, I'm surprised a little bit. It's one of those things. I thought that we were either going, this is the way I thought this was going to go. I thought we were either going to agree on like 10 spots on this list, or we were going to agree on none. And so it's kind of surprising that, to me, that we've got all the way to number 4 before we actually agreed on something, for the exact spot anyways.
My guess is we're going to agree on 2. And that was actually my prediction to begin with, that we would agree on 2. So far we're holding okay. Though I'll find it funny if this is the only one we agree on. And I'll be honest, when I came up with this, when I was doing as mentioned before, just putting all the songs in a pile and thinking about it, I originally thought this was going to be top 2. So I was kind of surprised by myself, but that's okay. So what do you have for your number 3, sir?
My number 3 is your number 5, which was You Know My Name from Casino Royale. See, that one, for all the reasons you said, was higher for me than number 5. It was all the way up into the top 3 for me. I love the song. I love listening to it. I could listen to it all the time without a problem whatsoever. And as you said, it is perfect for that movie. It is perfect for the Bond theme in general, and it is especially perfect for the reimagining of Bond that they did at that time. So for me, the Casino Royale's theme, You Know My Name by Chris Cornell, perfect at number 3.
Can't say I disagree, and I can't even disagree with your placement, because like I said, the top 5 are so close that it's basically personal nitpicking at that point. Mm-hmm. So now my number 3 is going to be one of our major disagreements, which means you already know what it is. It is a sentimental favorite of mine. I am not going to lie. That weighed heavily on this. A View to a Kill by Duran Duran.
And I can't disagree too much, because I did put it right in the middle. But explain why it's so high for you.
One, sentimentally speaking, I have always loved this song from day one. This is one of those songs that, like you were mentioning, I just involuntarily rock out to whenever it comes on. Mm-hmm. It's just such a great song. And I love the sharp guitar on it. I love the sharp screeching notes, just because they work so well. Because it's basically a guitar equivalent of like a bullet or some other action sequence moment. And just the general feel of it. Again, it's got that action-adventure feel. The lyrics are very Bondish. I thought the overall feel of it was very Bondish. In fact, in some ways, the overall feel was more Bondish than the movie itself was at many portions. So it's just a really exciting, really fun theme that also has the major case of sentimentality for me. So we have Duran Duran, which is, of course, led up by Simon Le Bon, singing the theme for A View to a Kill, Dolph Lundgren's first ever movie.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree that it's a good song. I do believe that, like I said, it's one that's ranked very high on listenability for me. I ranked it a little bit lower because I didn't feel that Bondness that you felt necessarily, and I didn't have any sentimentality attached to it. So, that didn't play into my decision at all. But as far as the song itself, I do agree that it's a very good song, and in fact, it does rank as high in listenability as some of my top 5 songs. So I completely understand why you would place it like that.
So now, drum roll time. We are at the top 2 on our respective lists.
Now, are we going to do like last time with the previous list and do number 1, then number 2, or since we have the wild cards in there, is that sufficient drama to go ahead and just do it 2 to 1? I'm
going to let you decide, because I'm going to let you go first with your top 2 in whatever order you want to give them.
All right. I was hoping for this stress to not be put on me. That's why I was trying to pass it off to you. But anyways, I will go ahead and just go in. Since we did have the wild cards in there and everything's all mixed around, somebody would have to be paying really close attention and writing things down, kind of like I was when you were going through your numbers, to know at this point to have anything given away. So I'm going to go ahead and just go in regular order. So the next spot would be number 2, and my number 2 is Goldeneye by Tina Turner. That to me is one of the most listenable Bond songs.
Bond songs,
I'm
really?
going theme songs, and I just combined it. I was like, I'm going to save time and make it one word. No.
I mean, yeah, I know Tina Turner insures her legs, but still.
No, but it is one of the best Bond themes, I think. It really fits the Bond franchise. It's got all the points that it needs. It's got a strong female vocalist. It's got a great melody that ties in with the theme of the movie. It has the words. I can take or leave the words, quite honestly. I mean, it's not really a high priority for me for the words to really tie into the song, as long as enough ties in that I'm okay with it. But for me, GoldenEye is, one of my favorite movies of all time. Definitely one of my favorite Bond movies, and for me, one of the best Bond themes. I could definitely listen to this any old time of day. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. You pop GoldenEye on, and I'll be jamming along. So for me, number 2, GoldenEye by Tina Turner.
I was pretty sure this is where you were going to go, but not 100%. I gave it about, 40, 60, I think, on what order you were going to do. So I guess that means your number 1 is...
My number 1 is Skyfall by Adele. I don't know if it's just because it's the newest. I mean, that could be a factor. I'm not going to deny it. But for me, it has everything. It has the listenability factor. It has the up and down that I need. It's got the slow parts, then the fast, powerful parts. It's got the vocalist. I mean, obviously, Adele is just a phenomenal vocalist. I mean, just absolutely amazing. And this song is just so very Bond, and it fits the movie perfectly. As you said when we were talking about Skyfall, it's basically spelling out the third act of the movie. I mean, it is the movie, so you cannot claim that it does not have to do with the movie, and it is immensely listenable. It is my absolute favorite of all the Bond themes just to listen to, so for me, there's no other choice for top spot. It was the only one that scored a perfect score across the board for my particular rating scale that I, again, created solely for myself for this scale, but it's the only song that did score perfect across the board on it.
And this is the other portion where I figured you and I would agree, and we did. Oh. My number 1 song is Skyfall by Adele, for all the reasons you just said, except for I know it's not because it's the newest, because I did a lot of self-checking to make sure of that, and I tend not to be a recency freak anyway. In fact, a lot of times with music, I won't pick it up until the album has left the charts. That's just what I tend to do. Even with new stuff, it's weird. But so, it's almost anti-hipster. Not quite sure how that works. But I love Skyfall. It is, as you said, immensely listenable. Adele is the logical, worthy successor to the powerful voice of Shirley Bassey. It's such a Bond theme in terms of just how it's structured, how it's arranged. Everything about it just screams Bond. And then, again, the lyrics are the third act. So, of course, it has to be. How could anyone have ever doubted the best Bond theme ever thus far is Adele's Skyfall? I have to agree.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I did not think... I thought that we were going to have at least 1 or 2 in common. I actually thought it was going to be either just 1 or 2, like bare bones minimum, or it was going to be
it was just 2
group of them. It ended up being just the 2, but I did not think it would be number 1. For some reason, I thought you were going to have Goldfinger at number 1. So for some reason, that's what I had in my brain. I'm like, it's going to be Goldfinger number 1. I know it, but it wasn't high enough for me. But no, I can't disagree. Obviously, I picked the same one. So now I am very curious, though, because that means your number 2 spot had to be one of the wild cards.
Indeed, it is.
So what was number 2 for you?
The wildcard song that wasn't even an official opening Bond theme that I think is actually better than any of the opening Bond themes until the most recent one. it should have been an opening Bond theme. In fact, it was originally supposed to be an opening Bond theme until the studio overrode everyone else. And this is why when you listen to the score for the movie, all of the themes that happen within the orchestral portions key on this song and not on the actual opening theme. I am referring to K.D. Lang's Surrender from Tomorrow Never Dies.
For some reason with that description, I had in my brain that you were going with Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. But then I was like, no, something doesn't seem right here. And sure enough, that's where you went with it. Yes, I agree with you that was a better theme than the song that they actually went with. Definitely. The Sheryl Crow version was... And the K.D. Lang one was a really good song. In fact, I was able to pull up my list, and as a matter of fact, If There Was a Man did not make my top 5 of the alternates. It was actually Surrender, which was my number 4. It would just barely didn't make the list, and I mean just barely too. I mean, it was really close as far as scoring goes. So. I'm sort of surprised that it reached as high as number 2 for you, but I'm not shocked surprised. You know what I mean? It is definitely a good song.
It is. It's an amazing song, an amazingly listenable, just outstanding song. And it combines all of the atmospherics that I expect out of a James Bond theme. I mean, it just feels like it from the very, very beginning. And it's another one of those where it's very subtly sung, not just about the villain, it's sung from the perspective of the villain. The villain is singing this song for you, except instead of a balding white man who's getting into upper middle age, if not approaching elderly, but not quite there yet at the time, we have instead K.D. Lang, who delivers the song like a Bond girl. And it's just her voice and the way she delivers it. Just, like I said, the difference between sleazy and sultry. This is sultry in all capital letters. She's basically telling you that she's injecting poison into your veins right now. Meanwhile, she's dancing and showing you a bit of leg. I mean, this is just, And especially when she does that little cat thing. When she says, yeah, that just for some reason made me think of every evil Bond girl ever, just encompassed in that one little gesture inside the song. It is just so wonderfully, atmospherically Bond. It's just, this is a spy song. This is an espionage song. This is Bond in a smoky room with cards. This is Bond seducing the girl on the balcony when she was going to shoot him in the first place, but then changed her mind. Or this is the Bond girl who's going to shoot him. It's all right there. It's just such a fantastic song. I love this song. If we would have done this episode in October of last year, this would have been the top. Mm-hmm. It does it all for me. And if it weren't for just the amazing performance of Adele and the wonderful song that she co-wrote, nothing would have topped it.
It's definitely a very good song, and you've convinced me that maybe, just maybe, it should have slipped its way into my top 3 of the wild cards. But I'm still satisfied with my list as I wrote it. You haven't changed my mind, sir. But no, you've made some very valid points, and that song was definitely very good. Definitely better than that one. Definitely ranks higher than the official quote unquote theme song for that particular film. So no, I think that's very good, and I'm. Like I said, we only agreed on 2, but they were 2 of the best, 1 and 4. So that's not too shabby, in comparison. It could have been much worse.
And we both, to differing degrees, completely disagreed with the top spot of our resident network music guy. And we all pretty much were on just about the same page with the worst song.
Yeah,
so
very close.
Me as being the one exception.
Yeah. Well, we were very, very close there at the bottom of the pile. 2 out of the 3 votes, two were for the very bottom, and you were just one step up from the bottom for Madonna. And then the best song was, we both agreed on Skyfall, and somehow Another Way to Die managed to slip in there for one person, right there in the middle for me, and way at the bottom for you. So it tells you, it really speaks to how subjective music is. I mean, what one person loves, another person hates. And what one person thinks is pure mediocrity is something that somebody else is going to love and somebody else is going to hate. And it's just the way music is. That's just what music is. It's different to everybody.
Yeah, it's art, and that's just all there is to it. Now, on the same token, I wrote a piece about this kind of subject, except relating to movies, about 6-7 months ago. The worst thing that I can possibly say about your movie, except we can change it to your music. It's the exact same thing. What the worst thing that I can say about your art is not that it's the worst thing ever. In fact, that I would say is actually the second best thing I can possibly say about it. Because if it's the worst thing ever, then I thought about it, and it gave me a visceral, strong reaction. So your art spoke to me in some way.
Kind of reminds me of that scene from Pirates of the Caribbean when you are without a doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of. Ah, but you have heard of me.
Exactly. And really, if art says something to you, it's done its job. It doesn't have to say the same thing to everyone else. It just has to say something to you. It makes you think. It makes you feel. So, yeah, Another Way to Die, I think it completely sucks. But because I so viscerally think it completely sucks, it's a success. Because it did something. And there's always, as well, the contrarian investor who says, oh, you said that's the worst thing ever? I must listen to this. This is exactly why I have seen Ancient Evil, Scream of the Mummy, Bloody Murder, and things like that. So, the worst thing I can possibly say about your art is I don't care. True. Because if it doesn't make me think, feel anything, then your art didn't do its job for me. And now, if everybody says they don't care, then it did its job for nobody. But that's the beauty of it. You have 7 going on 8 billion people out there. Your art's going to speak to somebody. So it's all subjective, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. If nothing else was proven by tonight's exercise, is that everything is entirely subjective, whether it be music, movies, television, any type of art whatsoever. It's completely subjective. So we would very much like to hear from you, our listeners, as to where you think some of these songs rank on your personal lists. Again, you can find us on the web at HerMajesties.pod.com. You can find us on Twitter at HerMajesties.pod. We are also on Facebook.com/HerMajesties.pod. We make it as easy as we can, folks. You can email me directly, Eric at HerMajesties.pod.com, or email or Twitter message me, whatever it's called, mention me. That's what it is. Mention me on Twitter at Eric J. Dewey. And
you can find me on Twitter using that Twitter thing, that little tweet button, doing @ and you can find me at CinemaOTR, or you can email me at Ziggy@cinemaontherocks.com. And we appreciate you sticking around for this show. We've had a lot of fun doing it. I know it's one of the ones that I have been most anticipating since we started the series. And of course, we've got a lot more stuff to cover. And as we promised to do this time, except we're going to do it next time, we will be talking about James Bond novels, including the latest one from William Boyd. That would be Solo. We will also be talking about the recent Carte Blanche from Jeffrey Deaver. Mm-hmm. And we will also be talking about For Special Services by John Gardner. And we may throw in another surprise for you as well. And maybe even dish just 1 or 2 more things about music that we didn't cover this time. So, thank you very much for tuning in to Her Majesty's Secret Podcast. I'm Ziggy Berkeley.
And I'm Eric Dewey.
And you have been listening to Her Majesty's Secret Podcast, only on The Fern.
Kyle here. If you're like me, then you want all your shows in one spot, or a lot of shows in the same place, or better yet, some really great podcasts all on one network. Visit 4eyeradio.com for all the best shows featured on Blog Talk Radio, Stitcher, iTunes, Mixcloud, and more. Four-Eyed Radio Network, the Fern.